I'm a guy that's 24. Each day I build some more. I like episode 7 and episode 8. I'm Rich Boy J. Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here back in with another video, and today we are going to be adding more figures to my minifig wall. Yes, this is another episode of collecting every single LEGO Star Wars minifigure. If you're not familiar with the series, well, the name pretty much explains it all. I'm trying to collect all the Star Wars minifigures. This does not include the super rare ones like the Boba Fett's and C-3POs made out of rare earth metals, but it does include rare figures such as the Cloud City Boba Fett, which I actually already have. Man, it feels so awesome to say that. And even the Chrome Gold C-3PO. This week is an interesting one. There aren't a ton of rare figures in this haul, however there are just a lot of figures in this haul. I think there's like 15 figures in this haul, so let's go ahead and start with the first group. We're first going to start off with this group of figures right here. You can see we got a bunch of old school figures. I think the newest figure in this batch is actually this Ewok here from the 2002 Ewok attack set. But first up we have the Boba Fett figure. This from like a first glance just looks like a standard old school Boba Fett figure, but the unique thing about this one is this is actually the Boba Fett figure with dark red highlights on the helmet. This was, I think, in like a watch or some sort of Lego gear pack like that, and this was, I guess, unique because they put dark red on the helmet instead of the traditional brown that they usually put on the helmet. I have standard Boba here. You can see that the helmets look different. This one has brown highlights on the helmet. This one has the dark red, which, like, finally seeing this in person, I actually like quite a bit. I can get why they maybe wanted to try this, and I mean, they ultimately didn't end up going with it moving forward, I guess, but I can see why they maybe looked at that as an option. I think it actually looks kind of cool. Next up is Wicket from the Ewok attack set, and I mean, this is one of those, you know, original figures with very minimal painting. You can see that the hood is brown, the face is brown, the whole figure is just brown, and I mean, just looking at the mold, LEGO did a decent job with the figure in itself. I guess they either just didn't have the technology to, you know, get a good amount of printing on these complex curves, or they just didn't want to shell out the money to try to figure that out. Either way, the mold on this figure, I think, actually does look quite good. So this isn't a figure that I would just totally crap on, but like comparing this to the newer Ewoks that actually have, you know, a hood that's a certain color, a face that's a certain color, and the ears that are a certain color, not all just one monochromatic figure, I feel makes a world of a difference, and I'm really glad that LEGO's decided to actually implement those types of details into minifigs. Next up we have Lukes. We have two Lukes here. The first one is a hooded Luke, and this one actually came in a minifig pack. Remember back in the day they used to do those minifig packs. I think they were usually 3 figs to a pack. It may have been around like $10 if I'm not mistaken. Might have even been even cheaper than that. Someone in the comment section I'm sure will correct me. But the first one is this hooded Luke figure, very reminiscent of him from when we first see him at the beginning of Return of the Jedi. So it's kind of cool to have, you know, the original Return of the Jedi Luke figure here. And then we have him as we recognize him at the end of Return of the Jedi. This is from the Final Duel 2 set, I think it's Final Duel 2. I think Final Duel 1 is the door, and Final Duel 2 is a throne, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, I can go either way. Whichever Final Duel has Luke, this is obviously the one that set belongs. This is actually the figure that belongs to that set, and the unique thing about this one, because we had, you know, an episode 6 figure last week, is this one actually has the black hand. So this is, I guess they decided to add that detail into him once he gets his hand shot. From the beginning of the film, he puts on the glove and then he is good to go, Michael Jackson style. Next up, we got some Clone Wars figures. I know you guys love your Clone Wars figures, and you know that I don't love the Clone Wars figures. Starting off, we got Nadar Veb, the Jedi Mon Calamari figure from the most recent General Grievous Starfighter set. Pretty decent looking figure, like a nice generic Jedi robe torso. So if you just wanted to, I don't know, have like some Jedis walking about like a Jedi Temple mock or something, I think this guy has a decent torso for that. Doesn't show any, I guess it does actually show skin right there, so maybe you don't want to use that, or put like a hood or a scarf on him to kind of hide the neck print there. But all in all, looks pretty good. I think the Lego Mon Calamari head mold looks incredible, and I mean, not really too many bad things to say about this figure. I think for a Clone Wars figure, it actually looks pretty good. This next one, on the other hand, is like everything I could possibly hate about an Anakin figure. So, I mean, the standard Anakin face print is pretty awful, but for this one, which came in like a Nintendo DS like case that came with some like Lego Star Wars themed stuff, this one they decided to just give a clone head. For whatever reason, he has a clone head. And I mean, I don't know which is worse. I mean, like the clone head or the Anakin head, I don't know. They both look pretty awful. And I mean, this is, this is not a good looking figure in my opinion. Like the torso, especially looking at some of the more recent Anakin figures. Like I don't have the most recent one from that Mustafar set handy with me, but I can actually pull up a picture of it real quick. You know what? I don't even need to pull up a picture. Look, this is the Anakin. I actually don't know. I think this is an Anakin from Palpatine's Arrest, if I'm not mistaken. The hair is obviously modified, but like the torso print looks so much better. And I get it. They were going for, you know, the style of the cartoon. I understand that, but it just looks so bad in comparison to modern day figures or even just movie styled figures in general. So not super excited to get this figure, but happy to get it kind of out of the way so we can not really worry about it. So yeah, not a great figure. Doesn't even have back printing. I just realized, man, this is not a good figure. Last and probably least is Ki-Adi-Mundi from the Clone Wars. Man, this is such an ugly figure. Oh my god. So for the longest time, this was, I wouldn't say a valuable figure, but at least a semi-valuable figure, because this was the only representation of Ki-Adi-Mundi that we had. Nowadays, he comes in a battle pack that's pretty rarely available. Like, people are literally building Ki-Adi-Mundi armies at this point. So this figure, I mean, has definitely lost some of its value because of that, which is definitely for the better, because I think his Clone Wars face just does not look good at all. The headpiece I've always gone back and forth with. I don't love it. I think that this area right here just protrudes a little too much. And I mean, they used the same mold for his updated version, which I was kind of surprised by. I thought they might want to rework that, but at least the face on that one isn't a complete travesty. In terms of the torso, you know, just a standard under-detailed Clone Wars torso. Like, what more can you even say about it? A little bit around back, he actually does have back printing, and he has like a hood on his back, which is interesting because I don't think they usually do that. Like, actually print like the hood as it's down on the back of a figure. Honestly, I had no idea he had a hood built like into his Jedi robes, if that makes sense. But yeah, I guess that's kind of interesting. And he has back head printing as well, which is kind of cool. Those ridges are supposed to, I guess, match up with the ridges at the top of his head. Like this piece, I mean, I don't love the way it looks from the front, but I do have to admit, for like the time, I think this was from like a 2011 set, it's nicely detailed. Like the paint or the print on it, it's not paint, it's the print. The print on it actually looks pretty good, I think, but just, I don't know, this just really doesn't, this figure doesn't do much for me. I think the updated one looks much better. I mean, honestly, like, even just coming from like the Lego Star Wars games, like, I kind of appreciated that for the Ki-Adi-Mundi figure in the game. They just gave him like an elongated Lego head. I don't know, I thought that always kind of sufficed. Like, obviously he didn't have the ponytail, but that kind of worked. So like, going from that to this hideousness was always kind of a weird jump to me. Next up, we got Hoth boys in the building. On the left side, we have a just standard Hoth Trooper. This actually came in two sets. It came in the 2010 AT-AT set, and I think like the 2012 or 2013 Hoth Attack set, which came with like a snowspeeder and just various Hoth things. And not really much to say about this figure. There's been a few figures kind of made that look generally like this, with this torso printing, that hat, and those pants. But this one is specifically the dimple-faced, like dimple-chinned Hoth Trooper. I mean, so that's what differentiates this one from all the other ones, I suppose. Up next is Luke from the Wampa Cave set, also around that same time. I think it was like a 2010 set. And this figure actually looks really good. Like, I think the torso print is incredible. I love how he has his kind of like Hoth vest with the his like Hoth like logo, or not the logo, but like his rank on his chest. I always love when they include the ranks on the figures. Like, if you're trying to quote unquote army build some rebels and you want to have a decently fleshed out hierarchy of leadership, it's cool to get prints like these where you can have people of various ranks. They've done that with the the Imperial officers, obviously. They've done it with the Hoth rebel troops, as well as even some Resistance officers. So I actually really appreciate when they do that. Around the back, he has some pretty good back printing as well, just showing the back of that vest there. And all in all, I actually really like this figure. I think the updated one, which had like this, I can't remember. I think the updated one came in the UCS Hoth set, if I'm not mistaken. It had scratches on the face. There's been so many Hoth sets, it's really hard to keep up with what figure came in what. But there is an updated version of this figure nonetheless, and it does look better, but this one I think still looks pretty good. So shout out to this figure. I like it a lot. Next up, we got some Pilot Boys. So starting from the left side, this is from the TIE Defender set, which was I think like a 2010 or 2011 sets. A lot of these figures are from 2010, 2011 era. The one to the right of it is I think from the 2013 TIE Fighter, and the only difference between these two is actually the head. So you can see the head on this one is just black like most old school pilots, and this one actually has the balaclava around the face and actual face print. So I know a lot of people actually really appreciated LEGO doing this, and I kind of do as well. It was, I don't know, just a nice touch from just the many years that we just got a black head. So it was, you know, something different, something to give us a little bit more figure details. So I certainly do appreciate it. Obviously the downside to this was the fact that everyone had to be super tan because they were printing on black. So that was really the only like negative thing I could say about them including that kind of detail on figures. Next up is a Republic pilot with like the helmet that goes over the face as well. This is from the Palpatine shuttle set, which is, I don't know, I feel like a set you don't honestly see super often. Like I don't just find that set in the wild super often, but it's a cool idea for a set. I actually like the set quite a bit, and I like this figure quite a bit. I think that the helmet design looks really sweet. Like this, there's just actually a decent amount of detail put into this, especially those logos there on the front I think look really nice. Just all around, this is actually a pretty decent looking figure. Has some decent back printing as well. I can show you guys that there. All in all, 3 solid figures. I was disappointed. Like I was really hoping there would be more differences between these two than just the face prints. It's always kind of annoying when you have to buy 2 almost exact figures with such a minuscule difference like that, but I'm glad to have those holes in my collection filled out. Our final group of figures are going to be an interesting batch. On the left, we have Padme from the Sith Infiltrator from I think 2011, 2010, around that era, and this is kind of a weird figure for me to get because I actually technically already own this figure. This was a figure that I purchased back in 2013 when I was literally like getting back into LEGO Star Wars. As most of you guys know, the first project that I started to try to work on, like once I realized I want to build MOCs for somewhat of a living, I decided to do the pod race, and this was one of the first figures I bought just off of Bricklink, just so I could, you know, have figures to populate the pod race. I had, like, the most recent Padme I had was probably from that original pod race set, so I wanted something a little bit more updated, and this is one of the first figures I got, and I was actually super happy to get it, because, I mean, the detail is pretty good. Like, it's a pretty decent looking Padme figure, I think, especially since she has her own, like, face print. The most recent Padme is using Jyn Erso's face, which irks me. But what I don't know what happened with the figure. I guess I've misplaced it, and I mean I've been looking for it for years now. I've been hoping that it would just pop up in my collection. Newsflash, it hasn't, so I just decided to finally bite the bullet and go ahead and repurchase this figure. My best guess is this figure ended up getting lost in my aunt's car whenever this happened on the way to a LEGO convention. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that figure. It is worth noting that this Padme does have a double face, so this is her standard, like, oh, this 9-year-old boy is flirting with me, how cute face. And if you flip it over to the back, this is her you assume too much face when she's talking to Qui-Gon Jinn. Next up, we got Xander and Cordy Freemaker, 2 pretty cool looking figures, I think. These are both from the Arrowhead set, so like there were 2 sets of Cordy and Xander's. The first 2 came in that, what was that thing even called? I don't know, the Star Scavenger, I think it was. So the first 2 came in that, and they kind of updated them for the Arrowhead set. And I like these figures, one, because of the skin tone. Like, they're just kind of generic looking faces you can use with a darker skin. So they definitely have some utility in terms of just any random person's LEGO collection. And also, I think the torso and pants for both of them are good, just Star Wars-y looking torsos and pants. Like, if you want to just have a mock and you just want to have, you know, casual citizens walking around pretty much most places of the Star Wars universe, like, these torsos and pants fit in very well. So these are just good background characters, since, I mean, they're from the cartoon. They're not gonna really stick out among a group of just like random Star Wars citizens in the back of a mock. They don't, you know, they're not super important main characters from any film or anything. But I like these figures a lot. This is one of the first figures I think that had this hairpiece, and that's one of the reasons I think I remember really taking to this figure when it first came out. And there's some back printing on both of them as well. looks pretty good. Not really too much to say about those figures because, I mean, who even cares about the Freemakers at this point? I shouldn't say that. I actually did kind of like that show. But that was the batch of figures. We got a ton of figures this week, guys. So let's go ahead and jump to the time lapse and throw these babies on the wall. 501st Clone Trooper, yeah, that's what I like. I don't want a clone unless it got the blue stripes. My mama bought me plain clones for my birthday party. Really, I wanted 501st, so I hit him with a sharp. We wanted Facesu Cody, yeah, I know y'all all remember. But instead, all we got was a construction figure? Bruh. Back in the day, anyone can build an army cheap. But nowadays, a 501st troops cost $12 a piece. Cha-ching. They won't make a 501st back and I don't get it. But they keep making all these clones that are non-existent. What's up with that? It's tragic how we're begging for it and they won't listen. Just give us 501st and all will be forgiven. And now we have the figures placed. Man, this wall is looking better and better every update, which makes sense. I'm adding figures every single update. So starting at the top, we went ahead and placed our boy Boba Fett with the dark red highlights. So we finally have the trifecta of Boba Fett's, the original Boba Fett's. So many Boba Fett's. And over to the right side, we have that Luke with the hood up, and there's also the other Luke somewhere over here. Where is he? There he is. There's the other Luke that I placed with the black hand. The Ewok Wicket is right here chilling next to our boy Yoda. One of the interesting things was the Hoth Luke figure was cataloged right here for whatever reason, which is weird because he's like right in the mix of a bunch of yellow figures. Like the next flesh tone figure doesn't start until like way over here. But this Hoth Luke figure is just chilling right here. I don't know why, like that's a 2002 figure, and that's like a 2010 or 11 figure. So I don't know why that is cataloged that way, but that is just the way the wind blows. We got our two TIE pilots right here, chilling next to Barriss Offee, and I guess that would be the ARC 170 crew right there next to them. Nadar Veb right there. If we fast forward down to the bottom, we got Cordy and Xander Freemaker chilling right there. So all in all, a pretty good minifig haul this week. It was 15 figures added to the list. I actually ran the numbers recently, and I guess like not including these new figures I got because I need to like rerun them, but basically going into this episode, I had I think 82% of all the Star Wars figures, which is incredible, especially since they're putting out so many more sets now. It's not super difficult to keep up with them just because, you know, I buy all the sets anyways, so I know I'm good there, but I'm trying to do that while also trying to catch up and fill in all the blanks in this wall has been a bit of a challenge, but it's working pretty well. I feel like when I first started this project, I was maybe around 70%, which doesn't sound like a huge jump, but you also have to consider they have added, probably since I started this like minifig wall, I don't know, at least 200 or 300 more figures to the Star Wars catalog. Like I think when I first started, there was only maybe like 700 or 800 figures that existed, and now there's well over 1,000. So the fact that I've been able to keep up and actually increase that percentage along the way is a big deal. And for those of you who are wondering, like, you know, since they're adding so many figures, like, you know, why does my wall, for example, stop at, I guess this is the April wave from last year, the 20th anniversary wave. Basically, my plan is to not worry so much about the bottom. Like I said, I'm buying all those sets. They will come. But the goal is to really fill in all these gaps at the top. Then once I have enough of this done, I can worry about trying to extend the wall. But in the meantime, it's way more important to me to just fill in these gaps up here. And I'm making a decent amount of progress at that. There's still a few sets in my collection I had to actually open and get the figures out of. And some pretty figure-heavy sets like Ewok Village, the UCS Sandcrawler. Both of those I have sealed in my collection. I haven't opened. But whenever I get around to it, I'm definitely going to do that and place those figures on the wall because those are actually fill up some pretty substantial gaps in the wall. So that's going to finish up the video this week, guys. Hope you enjoyed checking out this journey. Do a quick pan in on our Cloud City fellows. This section was so empty like a year ago, and now it's so full and makes me so happy. But yeah, that's going to finish it up. Of course, let me know in the comment section below what you think of this wall, what you think of the progress I've been making so far, and I'll hopefully see you again very soon with another update. So take care, guys.